All right, well, what is up, my friends? Welcome to the complete set review for Dominaria United. That's right, we got a brand new set. I am freaking pumped. This is probably the most important release of my entire Magic career. Why is that, you say? Well, I'm one of the 32 players playing in the World Championships in about holy crap, about a month? 2 months. No, 2 months, yeah, end of October. And 32 players. The formats are Dominaria Draft, Dominaria Standard, Dominaria Explorers. It's a very important set for me. I am pumped. We're about to do a full set review where we go over every single card, every single one. Limited and construction. We have awards to give out. We've got colors to go over. We've got cards to look at. I'm pumped. You should be too. And this is just the beginning of my content for Dominaria United. Of course, I always do my set review. I do my 10 new brews, which are right there. 10 new brews. And early access will be on Tuesday. I'll be playing my 10 new decks, which is really, really fun. Check out 10 new brews. Then I'll have my Bronze to Mythic series starting a little bit later in the week, next week, which is really, really fun. That's on the YouTube channel. Check that one out. And I'm just pumped, and you should be too. A lot of exciting events going on as well. We'll talk about one of those in each video, I guess. Well, so we got Poker Night. Poker Night tomorrow. That's right. Tomorrow night, Poker Night in Pile Driver Discord. If you're a YouTube member or a Twitch sub, get in the Discord, play for free, or it's free to play with prizes. We also have Pile Driver Fantasy Football, also free to play with prizes. In the Discord, if you're a Twitch sub or YouTube member, get in the Discord and play, please. All right. Also have our pre-release as well. Pile Driver pre-release, same idea. Free to play in the Discord, prizes included. You got to get in the Discord. All right. It's $5 a month if you're not a sub. Get your ass in there and let's go. All right. Let's talk some cards. Let's do it. White. Our first card of the entire set review is Anointed Peacekeeper. 3 mana for a 3/3 human clerics, 2 good types. It's got Vigilance. When it ETBs, look at an opponent's hand, then choose a card name. Spells your opponent's cast with a chosen name cost 2 more to cast, and then activated abilities with sources with the chosen mana cost 2 more to activate unless they're mana abilities. Sort of like an elite spellbinder kind of card, although it's important to note that it does a few things a little bit differently, where this, you name the card, and it doesn't need to be in their hand, and it taxes all future copies as well, which is kind of cool, honestly. So if you're scared of them, drawing Wrath of God or whatever, they don't have it yet, you can just name it, and it costs more, which is kind of nice. Kind of more like a meddling mage almost than a spellbinder. And then also his activated abilities cost 2 more. That's kind of cool too, honestly. So I believe that'll work on Planeswalkers. If anyone judges in chat want to help me out, but that's a pretty cool effect. So you can kind of target their thing they have in play, make it cost a little more, and then it's a decent sized body as well. 3 Vigilance for 3 is solid. This card's good. It's just a good, solid card. This is not a crazy, powerful, ridiculous card, but just a super, super solid card. It does work on Planeswalkers. Chat is confirmed, which doesn't mean anything, honestly, but so pretty solid card. As Vigilance, you can't be Wandering Emperor. This card's sweet. This card's sweet, and if there's some sort of like white aggro deck, this card will probably be in it. And I feel like I'm almost undervaluing this card a little bit, but it seems very good. It seems very good. Anointed Peacekeeper looks great. And then Limited, just a bomb. Not a bomb, I'm sorry. It's a very, very solid card. Just a high value card that's going to be a good body and have a good effect, which is great and Limited too. So very solid card all around. I like it. I like it. Up next is Archangel of Wrath. And we're getting right off here with our sleeper pick. Now, I know this card was previewed early, and one of the first cards they showed to show off the kicker mechanic. But I feel like people haven't really realized how good this card actually is. I think this card is ridiculous because a lot of times these multicolored, multi-kicker cards, like the ones in Apocalypse, weren't very good. And this card does need to be played in at least an Orzhov Boros deck, if not a Mardu deck. So that is a restrictive thing to do. But this card is really, really good. I mean, this card is just awesome. A 3/4 flyer with lifelink for 4 isn't quite there, but it's a lot of the way there, all right? And when you add on the ability to have card advantage and life gain as well, if you fully kick this thing for 6 mana total, you have to deal 4 damage to one thing or 2 damage separated. You gain 2 or 4 life because this is the source is dealing damage, so it has lifelink. So we're looking at killing 2 things, gaining 4 life, and playing a lifelinker in play. It's a huge, huge stabilizing card. It's important to note that the kicker here, it's either a black or a red or both. Not black, black, not red, red, not black, 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 or whatever. So it's a black and or a red. But a board dominating card that you can play at any point in the curve is really awesome. I think this card's great. It's a great stabilizing card. I like it a lot. So card's super sweet. Obviously a stone cold bomb in Limited, all right? Just an absolute game ender in Limited. But I think in Constructive, this card's super sweet. I think people are sleeping on this card a little bit because it looks more like a casual or limited rare. This card's really, really good. It's really good. That's my sleeper for the set. For white, I mean. So moving on to our next card, we have argivian Cavalier. 3 mana for a 2/2 Orc Knight. Orc Knight? What? What is? Doesn't make any sense. It's a enlist creature. So we're gonna go over all of our abilities here. Enlist is a new mechanic, and it's kind of an obtuse one. As this creature attacks, you may tap a non-attacking creature you control without summoning sickness. So a lot of boxes to check there. The creature can't be attacking, so no vigilance. And the creature can't be summoning sick either. When you do, add that creature's power, only power, not toughness, to that creature's power until end of turn, right? So if I play this thing and I have a 2/2 in play, and then I want to go attack with this thing, I can tap my 2/2 and give it +2/+0. That's like not great. This feels like a really limited focus mechanic that's basically just there to push through board stalls, right? So I have a couple 2/3s, you have a couple 2/3s, nobody can attack. Well, now I can make my thing into a 4/1 or whatever and attack you with it. So it is a strange, kind of limited focus ability. This is obviously not a constructed card here as a common. As a draft card, this card is certainly fine. This is a 2/2 and a 1/1 for 3 mana, which is totally reasonable. There are things that care about, buffing all your creatures or counting creatures, which is kind of cool. And then the enlist is a little bit extra bonus on top. It's definitely not, a huge selling point like flying or first strike would be, but it's there. It's an ability. This is a reasonably solid common and limited. Nothing too exciting, but be aware that there are things that care about multiple creatures. And again, this is the kind of card you want to look in the context of the rest of the set, right? Don't look at it in a vacuum. Look at all the other things happening in the set. And if there are things that care about multiple creatures, global pumps, etc., then the card gets a lot better. Moving on to a card that cares about a number of creatures in play, right? That's perfect. Argivian Phalnix. And this is going to be our... Boom! Bombin Common. I think this card is excellent. So, the last card isn't amazing, but it's super solid. This card is a payoff, though. So you have a common here, 6 mana for a 4/4 vigilance. It has affinity for creatures you control. There's one of these in each color. It's a common that has an affinity, which means costs 1 less for each creature you control for a different thing. And this one is a human and a soldier, which is important. I don't know how it could be a human and a core, honestly. I don't know if it's like counting both creatures, but whatever. This card's great. So we have 3 creatures in play. This thing costs 3 for a 4/4. And this is the kind of card where affinity is so good because you kind of like build into it. So you like play another creature and then play this right after it. And it tops your curve, it attacks, and it blocks the good size. And this card also, if you're playing a bunch of weenie, crappy, smaller creatures, this card kind of goes against the grain of that. It's like a big 4/4 that can attack through or block well. Card's super awesome. Definitely my Bombin Common for the set, not even close. Constructed play, probably not. I could see a corner case maybe. I think it would need to be a little bit bigger, but very, very solid card. Probably a popper card, and definitely a very great card in limited. Love it. Up next is Artillery Blast, and this one kind of stinks. 2 mana for an instant. It has Domain. So once again, Domain is a returning ability in this set. And what Domain does is very simple. All it does is count the basic land types among lands you control. So Plains, Island, Swamp, Mountain, Forest. And it's not counting your basic lands, it's counting types. So dual lands will count for both. More on that later. But Domain here, instant, deals X damage to target taps creature, where X is 1 plus the number of basic land types among lands you control. So, say you have 2 wastes in play. 2 wastes. I'm reading chat now. I gotta use to read in chat. This is, I haven't done this in a while. I've been a YouTuber. So, it counts your basic lands. Say you have a Plains and an Island in play, right? So this thing does 3 damage to a tapped creature, which counts attacking creatures also for the most part. It can do more damage, but this isn't really the payoff you want. If this thing does 3 or 4 damage on average, that's like a very middling draft common. It's not great. If it does more than that, it's still only okay. So I'm a huge fan of this card. It's the kind of like filler. I didn't get any better removal, so I'll play this card in limited kind of card. Not very exciting. Obviously not for constructed, and then pretty unexcited limited. I think this card's kind of eh. Moving on to Benelish Faith Bonder. We have a common here, a 2 mana 1/3 with Vigilance and Enlist. So once again, Enlist, you can tap a creature to pump its power. It's only 1 creature, only a non-attacking creature, and only a non-summoning sick creature. So this card can push through. If I have a bear in play and the board's kind of gummed up, I can tap the bear, make us a 3/3. But the problem is that when you do this, you're really leaving yourself defenseless because you're tapping multiple creatures and stuff. It's only really relevant in board stalls. So this is like a middling 2-drop. Nothing too exciting here. It's whatever. Benelish Sleeper. This is is it our sleeper card? Is it our sleeper? No, it's not. It's not actually. I'm just Benelish Sleeper. 2 mana for a 3/1. It's a Phyrexian human soldier. Of course, a large part of the story in this set is the Phyrexians are back and they are invading again, and there's got sleeper agents. They're mucking things up. And this is actually a pretty cool card. 2 mana for a 3/1 is not great, but fine. It's a Phyrexian and a human and a soldier's types kind of matter. Then it has Kicker 1 black. So Kicker, of course, is the returning ability where you pay an extra cost to get an extra bonus. And if you kick it, each player sacks creatures. So we have a Flushbag Marauder for 3, Orzhov, or we have a white 2-drop 3/1. Kind of a cool card. This is going to be a weird card in Limited, though, because your opponent will often have crappers around. It's going to be contextual. It is going to be good against some decks, not good against other decks, because if they have, tokens lying around, also this card's not very good. But if they're playing, mostly big creatures, it's the usual kind of effect. It's not very good, but if your deck is built around it, it could be solid. There are a lot of token makers in white, so a reasonable card, and the floor of a 2 mana 3/1 is totally fine too. So this is a pretty cool draft card. Pretty cool draft card. I like it. It also pumps your endless creatures as well by 3, which is sure kind of cool as well. So kind of cool. Up next is Captain's Call. 3 mana for a sorcery. A sorcery that makes 3/1/1 soldier tokens. This is an instant. It'd be a lot better, obviously, but as a sorcery, it's still okay. Again, there are some global pump effects. This plays well with the affinity card. Not really great by itself on rate, honestly, but there are some cards that pump all creatures, so kind of a fringe playable and limited where if it fits your deck and it makes sense synergy-wise, it could be a card you might want, but not a card you're taking high here at all. Up next is Charismatic Vanguard. 3 mana for a 3/2 Dwarf Soldier, and 5 mana to pump your team, +1/+1. Notably not Vigilance. Of course, we're used to this maybe from the last set, the D&D Baldur's Gate set, where the Unicorn gave Vigilance. This card does not do that, which is a bit of a downside, but a fine mana sink on a decent body. Again, if you're going wide, you have a bunch of crappers in play, you can always activate this thing and get through. It also has the thing where if you on turn 5, you can just attack with this card, and if they have a 2/2 in play, they can't block with it, because if they block, you pump, and they lose it, so they don't block, and you don't activate and play something else too. So a fine draft common, nothing crazy here, but definitely fine. Citizen's Arrest. And this is a reasonably good draft card. White 1 for an enchantment. When ETBs exile a creature or planeswalker, an opponent controls, so it leaves the battlefield. It's basically just a Oblivion Ring for only planeswalkers and creatures. In Limited, that's what you want to hit 90% of the time anyway, or more. So this is like your solid removal spell in Limited. First pickable kill spell. Nothing really crazy here. Constructed, we can do better than this, but in Limited, first pickable. Very, very solid. Very, very solid.
Yes, citizen.
There we go, sorry. Cleaving Skyrider is next. We have an uncommon off-color kicker card. It's 2 mana for a 2/2 Flying Flash. Just fine, if unexciting. Kicker is 3 mana for red 2. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, it deals dex damage to any target or X the number of attacking creatures. So kind of an interesting card. You play this in combat after you attack, but if this thing can kill a creature for 6 mana, that's awesome. That's a 3/3 creature. Sorry, a 3 mana creature. A 6 mana creature comes into play, kills something, it's a flyer. So pretty solid draft card. Solid if unexciting. It is quite clunky. It does require you to be attacking, and it's 6 mana to kill a creature. But the floor of a 2/2 flash flyer for 3 is a decent draft card. So solid card, reasonable draft card. Nothing too crazy here. A lot of the off-color kicker cards are quite good and limited. Clockwork Drawbridge. 1 mana for an 0/3 artifact wall defender. 3 mana tap a creature. Tappers that cost a lot to tap aren't great. This is an 0/3 for 1, which is okay. 3 to tap is a lot. That's a lot of mana to tap a creature, and it's hard to do this in the early game. And once you start doing it, it's hard to do other stuff as well. So this card it's weird. Usually tappers are used in aggressive decks to kind of push through blockers, or you can use it to stop their attackers and stuff too. But it's clunky. It's a very clunky card. There are some defender synergies in the set, which will probably make the viability of this card or break the viability of this card, because there are things that count defenders you have in play, which is kind of cool. More on that later, but probably mostly a synergy card in Limited for those decks, but not really particularly great otherwise. Coalition Skynight. 4 mana for a 2/2 flying enlist. I think this card is actively bad. Your creatures have to affect the board in some way in Limited when you play them. Limited is a very on-the-board format. And if you play a creature that costs 4 and it cannot put a block in basically at all, it better do something really, really good or be insanely good on offense. And this card is neither. It's very fragile. It dies very, very easily. And of course, enlist it's only okay. So you're enlisting your 2/2. Now you attack for 4 and have no blockers. It's the kind of card that it's good when you're ahead, but if you're at parity or behind, it's very, very bad. And that's not a good place to be in limited. I think this card's mostly unplayable and limited. Not a fan at all. Not a fan at all. Be careful with your enlist cards, and be careful with your cards that don't do much when you play them. Dethania, whatever. Banalia's Hope, a legendary 4/4 for 5. It's a human knight with first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. So that's some stuff right there, right? And then when it ETBs, you may put an aura or equipment card from your hand or graveyard on the battlefield attached to Athena. So can I get a Colossus Hammer?
Good lord.
That's pretty good, right? And this card is obviously a good limited card because a 4/4 for first strike, vigilance, lifelink, 4/5 is great. Constructed wise, you would need a card on par with Colossus Hammer to really get paid off for this. So, Eldrazi Conscription, sure. There are some pretty big, enchantments or equipments you can play. The problem is 5 mana for a payoff doesn't really do that much. If it had like haste or something else to really affect the board, sure, but probably not really a constructed build around. More of like a fun kind of commandery, brawly kind of card, and then a limited card. Cool card though. Cool card. Lifelink is huge. Getting out of the graveyard's pretty cool too. But yeah, kind of a cool card. Kind of a cool card. Defiler of Faith. So there's a cycle of 5 of these, 1 for each color. A Phyrexian human, or Phyrexian whatever, Phyrexian something, that has the ability, or as an additional cost to cast permanents of the color it is, you may pay 2 life instead of paying a white. So basically, it makes all future white permanents you play have 1 Phyrexian mana in the symbol. If you're unfamiliar with Phyrexian mana is a mana you can pay with 2 life or a mana. All right, very broken ability, and they've been really, really safe with these because they are very, very tame. Phyrexian mana is kind of busted, but these are pretty tame. So we have a 5/5 vigilance for 5, which is okay, not great. And then again, you can pay white permanent cards. They cost a white less for the cost of 2 life. And then if you cast a white permanent spell, you get a token, which is also not super exciting either in constructed. It's fine. It's not particularly great. It's a 5/5. Doesn't affect the board when you play it. It's not really a constructed card, honestly. I mean, 5 mana for a 5/5 is just not great. In limited, total bomb. Sure. This card's bonkers in limited. A 5/5 vigilance for 5 is already good enough. And the upside is more than that. So constructed, not really. Even if you're playing a portable hole or a 1-drop, I'm not sure how you construct your deck in a manner where you're abusing this card, because it's just not really abusable. That's kind of the point of Phyrexian mana. So constructed, I don't think this card's there. In limited, however, this is a slam jam first pick bomb. Super, super awesome. Super, super solid card. Up next is Destroy Evil. It's a cool name. 2 mana for an instant. Choose one. Start target creature of toughness 4 or greater. Start target enchantment. So kind of like a worse version of Valorous Stance. Conditional removal and instant speed for 2 mana. And then, of course, Destroy Enchantment. This could easily be a sideboard card in Constructed, because both those effects, if they're what you want, are pretty good for 2 mana, instant speed. But definitely a sideboard card for sure, whether it's an enchantment deck or some sort of large creature deck, and your white deck needs to kill them. In Limited, it's a sideboard card. You can't really main deck this card, I don't think. I guess there's the benefit of the red and green creatures are pretty big, so maybe you kill one there. And then against the white decks, if they have enchantments, you can maybe kill. But I wouldn't be happy to main deck this card in Limited. So, kind of a fringe sideboard card. You get the idea. Nothing crazy here. Griffin Protectors next. We have 3 mana for a 2/3 flyer, which is not a great rate. Whenever a creature ETBs under your control, it gets +1/+1. So you can play that token maker. This will be a 5/6 for the turn, which is kind of cool. But again, another 4-drop doesn't block very well. It's just okay. It's solid. It's a reasonable flyer. I'm not taking this card high. I'm not playing it always. If you're blasting out tokens left and right, it can be okay. But honestly, I'm not great. Again, I really, really don't like cards that cost 4 or more that don't defend well at all. So, not so big on this card. Guardian of New Banalia.
It's a trap.
It's our trap card, folks. I know people like this card, but I think this card's pretty bad. This card has a whole lot of words on it just to be a freaking grizzly bear. 2 mana for a 2/2 human soldier. And those types might matter, of course. Has Enlist, as we discussed. Enlist is not really great. When it ETBs scry 2, which is fine. It's, it's okay. And you can discard a card to give it indestructible and tap it. So same ability that Seasoned Hollowblade had. And Seasoned Hollowblade was a solidly playable 2-drop. Nothing incredible, just a solid card. And I think this card being a 2-2 rather than a 3-1. Oh, I'm sorry, it enlists. Oh, I misread it. My bad. My bad. That's even worse. Oh my god, it's even worse. So I'll read it again. Sorry. Whenever it enlists a creature, scry 2. So it can scry somewhat often if you're successfully enlisting, but I think enlisting is just not particularly great anyway. And then being a 2-2 is not really great because you want your 3-1 that can be indestructible to be able to bash in, deal 3 instead of 2, and they can't really block it. This thing's a 2-2. You can just enjoy it. You just ignore it. So I think this card it's okay. This is definitely a reasonable, okay card to play. But I think that the expectations of this card need to be tempered a lot. This is not like a premier 2-drop. This is not some great all-powerful 2-drop. It's just an okay card that might go into your soldier or human deck. That's just fine. However, the caveat here is if there's some sort of discard synergy, where you want cards in your graveyard, this card could do that also as well, which is kind of cool. But all in all, this card is okay. And again, Enlist does not work with summoning sickness creatures. So you play this thing, right? You play your 3-drop. You can't just crew and get in. So it's really hard to have creatures just laying around, unsummoning sick, doing nothing in constructed. In limited, sure, it's a great limited card for sure, but in constructed, that's a very, very hard quota to meet, which makes this just a 2-2 Seasoned Hollowblade, which isn't very good. So, not very big on this card. It's a great limited card, just a super, super solid limited card on rate, which is great. But in constructed, I think this card is not super awesome. I would temper your expectations. Playable, but not that exciting. Not that exciting. Heroic Charge is next. We have a 4-mana instant with kicker, red and 1. Creatures you control get +2/+1 on the turn, and if you kick it, they get trampled. This is like your typical inspired charge, whatever kind of effect. This effect is the kind of effect that is okay in some draft decks. The fact that you can kick it and get trampled is actually pretty sweet, because you don't really need that on this card. This card existed before this at the same mana cost without the kicker, and it was mildly playable then, so it's still mildly playable now. Kicker's a bonus for sure, and trample is a nice thing to have on a card like this. If you're going super wide and limited, this card's a reasonable finisher. It's not great. It's okay. If you're Boros, you need to finish your opponent off. If you're playing a lot of crappers, if you're playing a lot of tokens, you want to go here. Cool. But all in all, a fringe playable limited card. Chat asks, would enlist be too good if the summoning sickness clause wasn't there? I don't know if it'd be too good, but it would be very good, I think. If you could if it could give pseudo haste to all your creatures, that would be awesome. So it'd be a very good ability, yes. Very, very good. Up next is Join Forces. 3 mana for an instant. Untap up to 2 target creatures. They each get +2/+2 till end of turn. This is a weird combat trick that kind of wants you to play it defensively. And defensive combat tricks are a good recipe to get blown out in limited. So obviously not a constructed card here. But in limited, if you just say go on turn 4, and you're all right, I guess go, any good player is going to sniff this out, not attack into it. So you have this weird trick. It is usable on offense also, which is nice. But these tricks always look so good, but it's so hard to work into a spot where they have 2 blockers, you have 2 attackers, and everything lines up right that they're going to block both, and you're going to get the 2 for 1, So it ends up being just a 3 mana +2/+2 a lot of the time. Blowout potential is certainly there. I'd want to have a pretty low curve if I was playing this card in my deck. I think if you're aggressive enough, this card is definitely fine. It's reasonable. But all in all, it is not super exciting. Does not work with Enlist because the cards can't be attacking. So you can't attack and then untap them and Enlist or whatever. I guess you could Enlist. You can't Enlist and then untap and attack either. So I don't know. It's an okay card. It's an okay limited card. Potential for blowouts for sure, but good players will play around this pretty well. Up next is Juniper Order Rootweaver. This is a really, really solid common. It was very close to being Bombin Common. 2 mana for a 2/2 human, which is fine. With kicker 1 green. When it ETBs, if you kicked it, put a counter on a creature. And that's a very solid card. It's a bear, or it's a 3/3. It's modal. And then putting that counter somewhere is huge. Put it on a flyer. Put it wherever you want to put it. That'll make a difference. And that often helps break through board stalls and so on and so forth. So just a very solid common. I think this card makes your deck most of the time if you're green and white. Just good solid common. Good solid common. Knight of Dawn's Light is next, and this card's quite good. 2 mana for a 2/2 first striker. If you would gain life, gain that much life plus 1 instead, which is already solid. And then 2 mana for a shade ability, so you can shade it, pump it, plus 1 plus 1. This card's good. This card's just super solid. 2/2 first striker they can pump. Obviously, unlimited, this card's phenomenal because a 2/2 first strike for 2 is already there on rate. And constructed, it's funny because like it's kind of like a life gainy card, but I don't think that part of the card matters that much. It's not a cleric. You don't really want this in your life gainy deck in particular, but it's just a solid card. It's a knight, not a soldier, which might matter because the soldier themed things in it, but it is a human. But just a solid card. It probably doesn't get there constructed, but it's a super solid card. Super, super solid card. Could get there constructed, and then a great limited 2-drop. Up next, we have Leyline Binding. Oh, damn. Best in show. I think this card is awesome across multiple formats. All right. Leyline Binding is a 6 mana enchantment, but don't let the mana cost fool you. It's got flash. It has domain, so it has affinity for each basic land type. All right. Costs 1 less. When it ETBs, exile a non-land permanent an opponent controls till it leaves the battlefield. Basically, just Oblivion Ring the set here. Many Oblivion Rings in this set. If you have all 5 land types, this is a 1 mana Oblivion Ring with flash. This is unbelievably good. Now, this card is probably going to matter a little more in older formats, where you have fetch lands. So you have, you can fetch Triome, whatever, and you fetch another land, and bam, this costs 1 or 2 mana, which is really, really good. Even if all you have is 1 Triome in play, and remember, the new competitive Triomes are in standard, this thing is a better Oblivion Ring, which is already somewhat playable. And then as the game goes on, it gets better and better, and you can kind of like play your ramp spell to get your 5th card type, and then have the last mana cast this, which is awesome too. This card's awesome. This card's really, really good. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's great across multiple formats. In Pioneer, you can use Enigmatic Incantation or whatever it's called to stack this for a 7-drop early, which is super cool. You can't Portable Hold this, can't Abrupt Decay this, can't Prismatic Ending this, which is great also. This deck's sick. I mean, this card's sick. I love this card. I think it's phenomenal. Super, super awesome card. Super flexible across multiple formats. I'm down. I'm all about this card. In Limited, it's obviously great because Oblivion Ring is totally playable in Limited. Great card. Beautiful card. I love it. Woo! Look at the art, too. Great one. Great one. Big one there. Best in show. Leyline Binding. Moving on to Love Song of Night and Day. Hi. How you doing? How you doing tonight? Love Song of Night and Day, of course, with Flavor Text and like 1,000 cards back in Mirage. We have 3 mana for a Saga with Read Ahead. What's Read Ahead? I'll tell you. It's a new ability for Sagas. Okay, so Sagas that have Read Ahead allow you to skip the line. All right, so you can page through and start at any chapter you want. However, whatever chapter you start on, you progress from that point. So if you play this thing and want to start on chapter 2, you get chapter 2. Next turn, you get chapter 3, and then the saga is over. So this basically makes sagas into modal cards, where they're either, the full multi-turn value saga or sorceries, right? So if I want to just like put a counter on my creatures, I can just play this thing, chapter 3 it, and just get it out of here. Or you can go through 1, 2, 3. Sagas, of course, are very, very good, and that's pretty sweet. This is a little weird one though. So play this thing, you and opponent each draw 2, which is not great. Let's say you have a Narset in play, not a great ability really. It's just okay. Then you need to make a token. Then you get to put 2 counters on each of the 2 target creatures. So this is a 1/1 that makes it into a 2/2 and pump something else. I would imagine this card is going to come in on chapter 2 a lot because again, making your opponent draw cards is not great. Your opponent gets to use them first. You're not really gaining any value in that exchange. So feels a little more like a commander card. But in Limited, if you play this thing, get a 1/1. Make it a little bigger. That's okay too. Not a very exciting card, honestly. Kind of just a very low rate kind of card. Mesa Cavalier is next. 2 mana for a 2/1 flying. When ETBs gain 2 life. Just a fine draft common. Not a card I'm super excited about. A 2/1 flyer for 3 is not great. But gain some life. It's reasonable. You can play this. This thing I imagine will honestly block fairly often. Which is fine. Gain some life and block with it. So reasonable card. Nothing super exciting. Just a decent draft common. Nothing too great. Up next is Mexi Missionary, and this card is quite good. 2 mana for a 2/3 lifelink, which is already very solid. It's also a human and a cleric. So human cleric 2/3 lifelink is pretty good, almost there already. Has kicker black 1. When it ETBs, if it was kicked, return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So raise dead. So we have a 2/3 lifelink for 2, or a 2/3 lifelinking Gravedigger for 4, which is also very good. So this is a phenomenal bonkers limited card because both sides of it are insane. If it was just a 2/3 lifelink for 2, it'd be insane. If it was just a 4 mana 2/3 Gravedigger, it would be insane. So having the flexibility here is insane. I keep saying insane over and over again. Card's really good. Card good. Let's go to next card. This card really good. There you go. All right, that's my my English degree coming through right there. Card's great. Constructed, I think possibly playable if the human or cleric synergies matter. But yeah, solid card. Solid card. Prayer Binding. Can I get another O-ring? Apparently I can. 4 mana for an enchantment with flash when it ETBs, O-ring something, and then it gains 2 life. So this is a flash version of Faith Fetters, and it is you gain 2 instead of 4. Obviously a limited level card. Great limited removal spell, not for constructed. You get the idea. Resolute Reinforcement. This is a weird card. 2 mana for a 1/1 flash with it's a human soldier with flash. When it ETBs, make a white soldier token. All right, so this is basically just raise the alarm, but it's a creature instead of a spell. And it's funny because a card we're going to see later makes us really, really sad. This isn't just raise the alarm. More on that later. But this is an okay card because raise the alarm is an okay card. The big downer for me here is that the soldier is not a human. So if this was a human that made a human, maybe in Pioneer in the human deck or in Historic, the human deck could want this card as, you know, double triggers them $1. But as it stands, Raise the Alarm is mildly playable, and that makes this card also mildly playable. It's fine if you're going wide, super, you know, a reasonable card and constructed, probably not. But in limited, solid card. You know, solid card. Raise the Alarm's fine. Again, there are a lot of things in limited that care about pumping things up and going wide, that Bombin Common and stuff. So, solid limited card. Probably not there in constructed, but solid card. Solid card. Runic Shot. We've actually never seen this ability for this cheap before. 1 white sorcery, destroy target tap creature. Kicker is 1 blue, and if you kick it, scry 2. This card always costs at least 2. It's not bad. Of course, it has to hit you first, which kind of stinks a little bit, but still a very, very cheap effect. A little extra value if you can scry it. This is a playable limited card. This is a playable limited card. The question is this a constructed card? I don't think so. It is very cheap, but it's kind of hard to use it that well. They've already hit you, and now it's like turn 4 or 3 or whatever, and you're going to cast this thing and then play what else? You're already later in the game, play a better kill spell anyway, so probably not a constructed playable card, but a solid limited card. Solid if unexciting. Solid if unexciting. It is a sorcerer. If it was an instant, it'd be great, but... Up next is Skynight Herbalist, mana for a 2/1 human cleric. When it becomes tapped, you gain 1 life and you scry 1. This is like your enlist payoff common. You can enlist with it and gain and scry and stuff. It's an okay common, honestly. It's not too bad. It sort of has like lifelink, kind of, where like you attack on turn 3 and you gain a life. It's like half of a lifelinking attacker. And scrying's not bad either. Just solid common. Solid 2-drop and limited. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Freaking fruit flies. Up next is Sara Paragon, a mythic, also a 3/4 flying angel like the other one, which is a little weird, but once during each of your turns, you may play a land from your graveyard or cast a permanent spell with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. If you do, it gains when this permanent is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, exile it, and you gain 2 life. This card is only okay. This card also feels trappy to me in that people think this, or people love cards like this. Get out of here, man. What are you doing? Leave me alone, Mr. Fruit Fly. This is the kind of card where you play it and it doesn't do anything until next turn. Unless you're like going to play it on turn 5 and like play a land immediately or play a 1-drop immediately. The problem is it doesn't really do enough turn you cast it. And if it stays in play, great. That's cool. But that's not necessarily likely to happen. Anyway, it is Lurrus-y, but... people don't put Lurrus in their main deck very often. Lurrus is good because it was a companion, right? You don't want to just play this card if it's not a free card. So, I don't know. This card's not great. It's obviously a bomb and limited for sure. Absolute total bomb and limited. But in constructed, I think this card falls a bit short. You know, Luminous Broodmoth and other various cards kind of similar to this always fell flat as well. I think they were better also. So, just a kind of cool card, but not much else. Great limited card. Great limited card. What's up, Kyle? Shalai's Acolyte. We have a 5 mana 3/4 flyer. It's an angel. And has kicker 1 green, 1 colorless. When it was kicked, ETBs with 2 plus the most counters on it. So honestly, a reasonable card, you know, in limited. So 3/4 flyer for 5 is fine. You ever kick it, it's quite good. 7 mana for a 5/6 flyer. Just a fine limited card. Nothing really crazy. I'm not like slamming this card. If you need a top end, this does it. And if you don't, you might not play it. You know, I mean, you'll probably always play this card if you're green-white, but it's just a fine limited card. Nothing too super exciting here. Stall for time. 3 mana for an instant. Tap 2 creatures. And then if it was kicked for a blue and a colorless, put a stun counter on each one of those creatures. What? What's a stun counter? A stun counter is a counter that goes on a creature, and if the creature would become untapped, you remove the stun counter instead. So normally that would be on their untap step, but if they have some other way to untap a creature, that can do it too. Stun counters are really cool. And this one here just mimics the usual freeze effect we see often on blue cards, where like you tap a thing, it doesn't untap next turn, it's only 1 stun counter. We'll see more interesting uses of stun counters later. Set phases of stun is a pretty good idea for Ron Smithic. This card is pretty cool, honestly. 2 mana for a tap 2 thing draw card is a good aggressive cantrip. It's funny because it's named Stall for Time, which makes it sound like a control card. This is more of an aggro card, right? So it's turn 4, turn 5. You've curved out. They played a big blocker. You tap 2 blockers down, alpha strike, draw a card, and keep going. And if you kick it, those things stay tap for 2 turns. That's really, really good. Really, really good. So, solid draft card. I think this card's pretty good for aggressive decks. And, yeah, card's cool. Card's cool. Take up the shield. Instant, 2 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains lifelink and indestructible. I don't tend to love 2 mana tricks that aren't that impactful, but this one's pretty good. This puts a permanent bonus on the creature, gains you some life, and plays around removal spells, which I like. So, I kind of like this one, honestly. As far as 2 mana tricks go for limited, this card's kind of solid. I think you're getting enough out of this where you're happy playing this. And it does enough different things and gives you a little leftover bonus too. I like this card. Solid trick and limited. Wouldn't want a ton of them, but solid trick. Solid trick. And poor Johnny. Poor Johnny. Temporary lockdown. Can I get an O-ring?
Bingo!
Yy1 Enchantment. ETB. Exile each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less, so it goes away. So portable hole everything. Yes, all of them. And this card is obviously going to be a pretty good sideboard card in older formats and just in general. You know, decks that are playing with the small stuff. You know, if you're playing, sure, Onicult Anvil or, a lot of 1-drops, you're playing a Prowess deck or whatever. You know, kind of the anti-Lurus card, I suppose. Definitely a good sideboard card. Probably not a main deckable card. It's funny. I think this card will see more play in older formats than in standard. But a card you should be aware of for sure. And in limited, not really a card you're going to play unless you're like boarding us in against some crazy stuff. Urza assembles the Titans. White 3 for a read-ahead saga. Chapter 1, scry 4. Real top card of your library. If it's a Planeswalker, put it in your hand. So you need to play a lot of Planeswalkers for this thing to hit reliably. Chapter 2 is put a Planeswalker card with mana value 6 or less from your hand onto the battlefield, which is okay. Chapter 3, you may activate loyalty abilities from Planeswalkers you control twice this turn rather than once. This is a pretty silly card because the amount of things that need to go right for this card to actually do anything are very, very high. You need to play a shitload of Planeswalkers in your deck to make it hit. Then you're putting a Planeswalker in for free that you could have just cast anyway instead of playing this thing. And then the double loyalty ability is only good if your Planeswalkers also lived as well. So kind of a nonsense card. Pretty fun casual build around. Reminiscent of other Planeswalker synergy cards where you just can't get that many Planeswalkers in play. And if you already have that many Planeswalkers in play, you're probably winning anyway, right? So cute card, kind of fun. And then in limited, if you get enough Planeswalkers to get this thing in play in limited, I want a screenshot and I'll gift you a sub. All right, there you go. Valiant Veteran. So there is one Lord in each color. And this is our White Lord. Unfortunately, it pumps soldiers, not humans. But 2 mana for a 2/2 core soldier. Other soldiers you control get +1/+1. And then it has the ability of 5 mana, exile it from your graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on each soldier you control. That's actually a really good ability, right? Because the problem with Lords is your opponent wants to kill them. So that you can't grab the stuff, right? So The fact this card has a very relevant graveyard ability is quite awesome. Uncounterable, you pump the squad, that's cool. The question, of course, is, you can be the best lord in the world, do you have a tribe? So there are going to be enough playable soldiers. We'll see. We'll have to go through Scryfall and look at all the soldiers that are in the format. Of course, rotation is happening. So goodbye Kaldheim, goodbye Zendikar Rising. Half the sets are leaving. So are there enough soldiers? That we got to check. If there are, this is a very good lord, a very, very solid lord. Great limited card also because you get a bear with upside and extra value, which is great too. So yeah, super solid card. There are also soldier token makers too. You need to be aware of that as well. So super solid card, definitely constructed playable, definitely a good limited card. And our last card in white is Wing Mantle Chaplain. Chaplain, right? They're at 4 mana 4 and 03. It's not very good stats, has defender. But when it ETBs, make a bird creature token with flying for each defender you control. And then whenever you play a defender, you get a bird token. This card's good. So like I was saying, there's like a defender sub-theme in this set, where there's a few cards in each color that care about defenders. This is a really good one. Say I have 2 walls in play. You cast this thing. You get 3 birds, and then a bird for every defender after that. That's awesome. That's a really, really solid card. So this is a great draft card, assuming you're in the defender's archetype. Super solid draft card. If this thing gets two tokens, you're already there. And then more is better, obviously. So, solid draft card. I look forward to playing this card in Limited for sure. Plays well at multiples. Defender deck. That's pretty awesome. So,
oh my god, Becky.
Get your booties ready. It's the booty deck, all right? And that's white, folks. All right, white's booked up. We get white out of the way. Now we can start the real show, right? So to recap, in white, our best in show is Leyline Binding. This card is freaking awesome. Our trap card is Guardian of New Banalia. Our sleeper card is Archangel of Wrath. And our Bombin Common is Argivian Phalanx. Let's go. Like, comment, subscribe. You're all great.